It's official. Britain is staring down the barrel of economic catastrophe, and the trigger? Donald Trump has just pulled it. His latest executive order has sent shockwaves through the UK, a devastating move that threatens to wipe out £24 billion in GDP growth over the next 2 years. And the worst part? The Labour government, led by Keir Starmer and Chancellor Rachel Reeves, never saw it coming. They were caught completely off guard, stumbling into a crisis that could leave the British economy in ruins. Trump's tariff war is unlike anything the UK has faced before. With his new order, he is imposing a retaliatory tax that directly targets VAT policies in foreign countries. That means UK businesses exporting to the United States are now looking at crippling tariffs of up to 21%, a death sentence for many industries that rely on American markets. And while Trump never explicitly named the UK in his speech, his senior trade counsellor made it clear the president will not tolerate VAT-based trade policies any longer. The impact? Immediate devastation for British businesses trying to stay afloat in an already fragile economy. And this isn't just speculation. Amit Kaya, an economic expert at the National Institute of Economic and Social Research, NIESR, has already warned that the consequences will be brutal. UK GDP is expected to drop by 0.4 percentage points over 2 years, amounting to a staggering £24 billion loss. The timing could not be worse. Britain's economy was already struggling, with GDP barely inching forward at 0.1% growth in the last quarter of 2024. The service sector managed a weak 0.2% increase, while construction grew by 0.5%, but production took a dive, plummeting by 0.8%. Real GDP per head, it actually declined by 0.1%. In simple terms, the UK was barely clinging to economic stability before Trump's tariffs. Now, the situation is poised to become an all-out financial disaster. And here's where things get worse. Economists warn that rising US inflation, which recently hit 3%, could push American interest rates higher. That means the dollar will strengthen against the pound, making British goods even more expensive in the US market. According to finance analyst Russell Goose, the impact on UK businesses could be catastrophic. The growing interest rate gap between the UK and the US will not only put downward pressure on sterling, but could also choke off investment. The UK's services sector, which currently enjoys a trade surplus with the US, is now at risk of being targeted by further tariffs. If that happens, confidence in the British market could collapse, leading to a sharp decline in foreign investment. And what has Chancellor Rachel Reeves done to prepare for this? Nothing. The same Reeves who promised to be Britain's great economic saviour is now facing a crisis that could define her entire political career. She has spent months talking about kick-starting the economy, yet here we are, on the brink of economic chaos, and she's nowhere to be found. How did she not see this coming? Was she too busy deflecting questions about her past financial scandals to focus on the job at hand? The truth is becoming harder and harder to ignore. Reeves's economic credibility is crumbling before our very eyes. And speaking of crumbling credibility, let's talk about Keir Starmer. Just as his government fumbles its response to Trump's economic onslaught, a second scandal has erupted, one that exposes his government's utter incompetence and dishonesty. For months, Starmer has defended his controversial deal to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, claiming it was necessary to protect critical UK-US military communications. But that entire excuse has just been blown to pieces by none other than one of his own ministers. Sir Chris Bryant, a science minister in Starmer's government, has openly contradicted the Prime Minister's claims. In response to a parliamentary question, Bryant confirmed that the International Telecommunication Union, ITU, has no authority to interfere with UK military communications. That means the entire justification for surrendering British territory was built on a lie. The UK was never under any real pressure to give up the islands. It was a choice made by Starmer's government, a choice that now looks more and more like a complete betrayal of British interests. And let's not forget the people at the heart of this crisis, the Chagosians themselves. More than 400 Chagos Islanders have publicly pleaded with the UK government to let them stay under British rule. Their voices have been ignored. One 70-year-old woman told The Telegraph, "I oppose this deal. I am British, and the Chagos Islands must remain British." But her words, and the cries of hundreds of others, have fallen on deaf ears. Instead, Labour has pushed forward with its agreement to hand over sovereignty to Mauritius, a country that has never had control of the archipelago. Under this deal, the UK will lease back the vital Diego Garcia base for 99 years at a price of £9 billion, a sum that many see as an outright sellout of British interests. Reform UK Chairman Zia Yusuf didn't mince words when he slammed the agreement as appalling, calling out Labour for making such a monumental decision without an electoral mandate. They have not sought permission, nor have they sought a mandate. They have ignored the very people whose lives will be affected by this. And just when you think it can't get worse for Labour, another scandal is now exploding in Rachel Reeves's face. The Chancellor, already under fire for her disastrous handling of the economy, is now battling a damning investigation into her past, one that could completely destroy her credibility. A bombshell BBC News investigation investigation has raised serious questions about Reeves's online CV. It turns out her resume may not be entirely truthful. This is the second time her credentials have come under scrutiny, and the backlash is growing. But even more shocking is what else this investigation uncovered. Rachel Reeves was allegedly involved in an expenses scandal while working at Halifax Bank of Scotland, HBOS, in the 2000s. According to a whistleblower, Reeves and two colleagues abused their company expense accounts to fund a lavish lifestyle. Documents show receipts for expensive dinners, high-end taxis, and a pair of earrings purchased for her PA, all charged to the company. The internal audit in April 2009 found that there was a case to answer. 1 month later, Reeves left the bank, along with her boss. The third manager involved never returned from sick leave. Reeves, of course, denies everything. Her spokesperson insists she was not aware of any investigation and that all expenses were submitted and signed off properly. But the evidence tells a different story. A 6-page complaint, backed by dozens of pages of supporting documents, was filed by a whistleblower, detailing how Reeves and her colleagues misused corporate funds. The BBC's findings are damning, but Labour refuses to engage, insisting that this is a non-issue. But here's the real question. Can Britain afford to trust Rachel Reeves? This is a woman whose career is built on her supposed economic expertise, yet we are watching the economy fall apart under her leadership. She is facing serious accusations about her past, yet Labour continues to insist she is the right person to manage the country's finances. The cracks in this government are no longer just cracks, they are gaping holes, and the public is watching. With Trump's tariffs slamming the economy, Starmer's dishonesty over the Chagos deal, and Reeves's credibility under attack, one thing is clear: this government is spiralling out of control. How much longer can they hide the truth before the entire house of cards collapses? Britain's economic nightmare is only just beginning, and the consequences could be catastrophic. Donald Trump's new tariffs are set to cripple UK exports, hitting businesses with a brutal 21% tax that could wipe out £24 billion in GDP growth over the next 2 years. For an economy that was already struggling to recover, this is nothing short of a financial disaster. Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor who promised to fix Britain's economy, has been completely caught off guard. She has spent months talking about kickstarting growth, but now, as Trump's economic war begins, she has no plan, no strategy, and no answers. Instead of securing protections for British businesses, Reeves has allowed the UK to become a prime target for American trade retaliation. Experts are already warning that this is just the beginning. The rising strength of the US dollar, fueled by increasing interest rates, will make British exports even less competitive in the global market. Foreign investors, already cautious about the UK's slow growth, may start pulling their money out, leaving businesses scrambling for survival. And what has Reeves done in response? Nothing. Labour's government has been silent, failing to address the crisis with any real urgency. Instead, they are busy defending Reeves' own personal scandals, including a bombshell expenses probe that has just resurfaced from her time at Halifax Bank of Scotland. The British people deserve answers. Why was Reeves unprepared for Trump's tariffs? What secret deals is Starmer hiding? And how much longer can this government survive before the entire economy collapses? One thing is clear: this is only the beginning of Britain's biggest financial crisis in years.